It's the Sticks and Bricks podcast where we take a look at all the parts, pieces, and situations that come up every single day in your home building business so you can listen, learn, and take action to build a business that's as strong as your home's. I'm your host, Brad Hubbard. Thanks for listening. If you've ever developed ground for a new community, or you're thinking of jumping into the land development game, this is going to be an interesting episode for you. I speak with Bob R.J. Fisher of R.J. Fisher Engineering to explore the complicated but exciting process of using newer technology to explore the feasibility of land development. And because our discussion includes a look at how quickly the software can lay out a development on top of a piece of raw ground, I thought this was the perfect podcast to include video along with audio. So see the show notes for a link to the video of this podcast to check this out. It truly is amazing and it's evolving every day. Bob has a lot of experience, 30 plus years, and he's the perfect person to discuss the process. So let's jump over to the interview, and don't forget, if you want to see what we're discussing, check out the link for the video version of this episode. So a lot of builders think about getting into land development. A lot have been in land development, have won and lost. This week, I thought it would be great to talk to an old friend of mine, a colleague that I've worked with for years, has been very active in our local builders association and knows his stuff when it comes to land development. It's R.J. Fisher, Bob Fisher of R.J. Fisher Engineering. Thanks for joining me.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. Now, we've known each other for quite some time, but you've been in the business a little bit. So if you don't mind, I'd just like listeners who may not know who you are, across the country here too, to just tell a little bit about yourself and, kind of the experience and what you do typically on a day-to-day basis.
Well, right now I'm president of R.J. Fisher and Associates. We pretty much specialize in subdivision and land development. We only do that work for private companies. We don't do municipal engineering and those type of things. So this is pretty much our specialty. We've been in business for over 30 years, so we've pretty much seen the economy and the home building industry develop in quite a few different scenarios over the last couple of years.
I'll bet.
But it has definitely been an interesting ride. I can tell you that.
Sure.
And really, I know you asked over the past 10 years, how do we see that the building industry has changed? Well, with the recession, I'd say, for 7 years or so there, we didn't see much of anything happening, especially when the government started to get involved and tried to fix the recession.
How about it?
That's probably the worst thing they ever did.
Right.
But before then, we used to see a lot of smaller builders try to go into land development. Mm-hmm. And some of them were successful, some of them weren't. Now we see a trend of more people specializing in purely land development, and we see a number of larger developers that only want to buy finished developments and build on the finished lots.
Oh, okay.
So that's been a little bit of a change, but we do kind of have a mix here now, especially in the Harrisburg region from what we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. Do you think was it just because the recession there in the late 2000s, a lot of builders were caught with their pants down as they had a lot of land holdings overall, and that's really what changed it? So now you have more land developers versus just the builders. Have you seen that change?
Yeah, I think a lot of people got caught short because you can easily invest several $1 million into a land development, and there was a number of builder/developers that put a lot of money into infrastructure, and when you're not selling homes and not recouping that money, the developers I work with that didn't put their money into that had a lot of money available to buy up people that were going bankrupt. So
Right. No, I bet too. Hey, real quick, I wanted to make sure my listeners knew too, this is going to be kind of a special podcast in the sense that eventually what I'm going to do, there's going to be a video portion of this that we're going to look at here in a little bit. So I didn't want to forget to say this up front too, because I think what Bob here is going to show is amazing, and you won't be able to just get it from words alone. So I'll make sure I have the link to that video resource too. In the show notes. So I just wanted to say it. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on that too. But I truly think that's going to be really awesome for folks to see.
Okay. Okay.
So again, a little bit with the trends you've seen and the last 10 years. Again, it sounds like we've established there is that kind of dichotomy of those who are kind of specializing more in land, those who are staying in the house, those who are buying finished lots too. Are you seeing anything where are infill properties being explored more than tracts outside? I don't know if that's a fair question because it just is whatever the project is.
Yeah, I think we've seen, especially the past 3 years, a lot more interest in companies expanding. So you do have a combination of smaller projects where a company just wants to expand or build. We've have seen a lot more in affordable housing. Over the past 30 years, I bet you we did 1 or 2 projects in Harrisburg. Currently, we have about 5 or 6 projects in Harrisburg.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
and that's definitely something different for the city.
Mhm.
And a lot of those are geared towards affordable housing, that there might be some subsidies involved with some of those projects.
Sure. Now, is that just because of interest from homeowners, or is it because more of, the municipalities are saying, hey, we want this and this is the only thing we'll approve? A little bit of everything on that. Just kind of curious why you're seeing more of that recently, or is it just because housing is out of control and the costs?
Well, I think there's a big demand for it. It is kind of interesting. I know the one project we did in Susquehanna Township was Sunflower Fields, and that was 35 homes that had tax credits available to it.
Okay.
It was only 35 homes. They did an awesome job on it, did a beautiful clubhouse. The money they spent on that was much more than if it was a private developer. But we had a fair amount of public opposition to it. Anytime you hear that someone can come in with Section 8 voucher and buy the tract or buy into a property, that becomes a concern. And these are different types of projects that I haven't been involved with before, that apparently, I guess they rent them for 10 to 15 years, and then the homeowners are eligible to be able to use that towards purchase of the property too. So that's been definitely something different that we haven't done in the past.
That's amazing. And I think that not in my backyard mentality, you get a lot of people. That might be a topic of another podcast someday. I'll have to get you back on that one too. Because as you know, about every project you get into, you're always going to have that, and it's always never there. But another day, another topic, we'll get into that too. So builders, I know you've worked with all sizes. For those who may not have done development before but are considering it, do you have any suggestions on kind of how big to start, parcel size? Is it dependent on the company themselves, or is there any kind of rule of thumb that you say, hey, if you're thinking about jumping into it, here's how I'd say go ahead and start?
Well, over the past 30 years, we've kind of had systems that we've developed, and they've definitely advanced pretty considerably over those years. But we always want to find the brick walls and the quicksand early on in the project before you get too far into it.
Okay.
And I have a PDF that I've prepared that's kind of due diligence for land development and stormwater considerations.
Oh, okay.
And we use that to come down through. We have a land development approval process flow chart that's a Pennsylvania Housing Research Council had prepared. And then there's another one from the National Home Builders Association, which also goes down through the process. And what that is, it's nice to have people understand, the early part of the project, all the things that we're looking at. We look at a site. In the past, we used to have a lot of realtors come in the office, say, well, I have a 100-acre tract of land here. I can get 4 units to the acre, so I have 400 units on this site.
Right.
No. The ordinances that are going on.
Saw the ordinance, took a simple division, so there you go.
Right. I mean, we look at the soils, we look at the topography, we look at the wetlands, the steep slopes, the streams, the classification of those streams, the zoning ordinance. There's a lot of different things that go into that. Traffic issues, site distance issue, how are you going to get access to it? So I've probably talked myself out of more projects in the past 30 years than into projects.
Right.
But fortunately, I'd say just about all of our clients that I've worked with over the past 30 years are still in business. So I feel that I've done my job, and it doesn't do me any good to collect a lot of engineering fees only to hit a brick wall at the other end.
Right. And for those listening right now, Bob had a great PDF as the flow chart that he was just talking about. You'll be able to see this on the video portion of it too. And with the PDF he's talking about, has the hyperlinks right in it. We'll make sure these are available too, as well as Bob's information in case you can't get it from me. You want to get it from him, we'll have that too. So.
Right.
Good.
But we start off a lot of these things with the site analysis. I'll get a call from a client or a developer, and they'll want to develop a piece of land.
Okay.
And this is a tract actually that we developed over in Silver Spring Township in Cumberland County. And what this is, it shows the overall layout of the site and how all the lots lay out and the grading. But what's beautiful about this program is we're able to call up an aerial photograph, site topography, and then go in, and within this site, we go and we set the properties that will go into a template, and we'll tell it, okay, what is my lot size? I set my 75-foot wide lot, 100-foot deep at 7,500. I give it all of my building and setbacks in there, and I give it all my grading parameters.
And that so you're getting that, I'm sorry, you're getting that from the municipal regulations, is that correct?
Right,
okay,
right,
gotcha.
from municipal regulations. And then you hit the magic button. We come in here, we lay out these roads, we use the municipal regulations for that. Right. We come over here and we hit the magic grading solver button.
Okay.
And what you see on the screen now, it's actually doing a site grading plan.
Wow.
And it's doing thousands and thousands of site grading plans to find the most cost-effective solution. Down in the lower right-hand corner, you see those numbers moving. Well, that's the cuts, the fills, and then the cost for the sidewalk, the curbing, the streets, and for the earth moving on the site.
Now, where do you get those costs? Is it something that you have based on historical averages? Is it something that a developer may have given you, or just folks you've worked with, or just you kind of know because you've done it as long as you have?
Yeah, it depends. If the developer has specific costs that they want to use on a site, we'll use those. But in the cost report, there's a detailed breakdown of what numbers we're using. It's finding the unit costs as far as what the quantities are. And if you have a spreadsheet that has unit cost you want us to use, we can use that and plug that into the program that we're using those numbers.
Nice.
But we use a combination of the RS mean average cost, or if we have a developer that has a specific contractor they work with that has those unit costs, we can plug those in too.
Gotcha. So that looks a lot like an AIA contract would be for land development. I mean, what you're seeing there in that spreadsheet.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
And we do this. I mean, this is early on in the project, and as we're sitting here with the client, we may look at it, says, well, geez, I don't like the way that curve is in the street, so I want to move the road over here. So there we go. The road moved.
Wow. Looked like they lost a couple lots on that one. So yeah.
So
move it back. We need lots.
Some of those edits I just made are not good. So I'm trying to do that. But let's say the ordinance in this particular case does allow us to go down to 60-foot wide lots. So let me just put in a 60-foot wide lot there and hit apply to that.
And folks, while he's doing this is amazing. I hope you'll get a chance to watch the video to see this.
And there we've just laid it out, and we've gained a couple more lots on this layout. But it's an interactive design process, which is really important early on when you're looking at it conceptually.
Now, could you run your magic button again and it would come up with a completely different layout, or is it optimized to give you the most lots per it, or what?
I still I still control the layout because I'm looking at this. I know in this particular area, I need to put my stormwater pond. This is just south of 81. So I really don't want homes right up against the highway.
Right.
I'm using this area for my stormwater pond. At the south end of the site, I have a fairly steep area that's wooded here. Based on this ordinance, I'm required to have minimum of 50% open space. So I have almost 60% till I end up with some of these other areas in here based on the ordinance requirements. Okay. So I'm controlling this based on my engineering judgment early on with this as far as what the layout is.
Okay.
But it is nice. We get a lot of commercial developers that might come in and say, well, I have a lot. How many square foot of a building can I get on here? I say, well, is it 1 story? Is it 2 story? What's their maximum impervious? And I can lay out a parking lot on a site and have it basically draw in, all my parking spots on the parking lot. And there's a parking lot I just laid out.
Wow.
And then I go and I'll put a building area in there. How big of a building do I have? Let me get rid of that box there. So there I'm laying out there's my building footprint. I'll do that, change that. And then I say, well, geez, I don't like where that building's at. I think I want to change that building and move it around. So I'll move the building. And as I'm moving the building, I just hit
parking
this
space
over here, and there's the parking lots changed.
That's amazing.
So this type of stuff, and then after I do that, I'm looking at where's my stormwater going to go, where's my drainage, what's my site grading going to look like.
Wow.
So we can evaluate, and if you're looking at several different sites, we can do that fairly easily with the capabilities that we have of downloading base maps and different information like that.
My goodness. Wow.
That's something a little bit different than.
Yeah, it's a little bit different from the rolls and rolls of paper we would get too. So.
or the napkins that we used to sketch on.
Yep, a few of those out there too.
and we use. One of the big projects we recently completed was the Blue Ridge Village out on Linglestown Road, which used to be the Blue Ridge Golf Course. I go into my envisioneering program here, and I bet you I have 70 different concept plans before we decided what direction we were going to take with the zoning, how big of a open space and park area are we going to have, how much commercial are we going to have, how much apartments are we going to do. And that one has everything in it. It has single family, it has townhomes, it has apartments, has commercial, has an assisted living facility. So that's really the beauty of this.
Yeah.
And then really when you get to the other end of the process, what we do is we'll create a 3D model then. And then when we get to the 3D model is really where we get to this stage of the game, where this is a 3D model of the Blue Ridge Village.
Oh, wow. And this is what the final one. Now you said you had maybe 70 layouts, let's say. So this software basically has allowed you to do that pretty quickly. Has that really, I never know if it's a fair question, but I'll ask it, heck with it. Has that brought down the concept price for builders now over what it used to be? I can imagine it, probably just because of the timing on it. This is
I think it allows us to look at a lot more options. So all this technology is great. It allows us to look at optimizing site grading. That's one big thing that I've seen in the past is that developer will come in with the site fully approved, fully designed, and the site's out of balance by 50 or 100,000 yards.
Okay.
Well, there's, $1 million to $3 million you're spending before you even start any infrastructure costs.
Sure.
So our costs to do the concept plan, because of the software and the technology and the sophistication we're doing, may be a little bit more. But look at the quality and look at the visualization.
And the savings you're going to get, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this video here, the site's under construction. So you go out there today, you have a hard time envisioning what the final product's going to look
Okay,
like,
right.
you know. And
Very
how do you
nice.
market a site when it's under construction yet?
Yeah. So that video, you get to the 3D, you finalize, what you're going to do. You do the 3D at that point. That becomes available for marketing purposes. I'm assuming you allow them to
Right,
take that and
right,
go from there too. So nice.
right.
Okay.
So, but that's a little bit of what we've
Wow.
been.
So does the software you have then too, as they're exploring a tract of ground, kind of maybe walk me through a hypothetical scenario. And let's just say, again, I'm a home builder and I know an available tract of ground. And, maybe the realtor walks in and tells me they can get 4 per unit, tells me the 400 units or whatever. But, what are the best steps kind of a home builder should take especially if they've never been in land development? Once, obviously the first step is to call you in now, but
Right.
but yeah, I guess, can you walk me through hypothetically, if I were that builder, let's say I found a 3-acre parcel of ground, maybe it's an infill piece of ground too. I come to you. What are the steps that you would kind of end up taking with them?
Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is sit down with the client, get some idea of what it is they would like to do. So I'm going to select the location. We're going to have a location. I'm going to import an aerial photograph of that site.
Okay.
And bring that up. I'll bring this down, be a little bit closer, so I don't want too much of the site, depending on what I'm doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll look at the topography of the site and the boundaries. Now we can bring tax parcels into this program too, that I have tax parcel information for.
Okay.
Cumberland and Dauphin County, and we can pretty much approximate York County and Lancaster County pretty easily.
I see.
But there we have an aerial photograph, and there we have topography that I've brought into the site that's available for download on the internet.
Wow. Okay.
So, and the hassle that you would go through typically to do things like that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Once we have an idea what the client is actually looking for, then we'll start the layout. We'll draw, okay, I'm going to put some roads up through this site. How am I going to develop it? I probably want to line up over here.
Okay.
End path. I'll go over here and go into the properties for that. We have cross-sectional templates that I know this is in Lower Paxton Township, so I want a 32-foot street, and these are all the street design parameters for Lower Paxton Township, the minimum and maximum grades and everything else, so I apply those.
Nice. It's funny you see this and to see all the parameters you put in and templates you have, because one of the questions is I had in my head when you first showed me, going, boy, you just push that magic button. Why wouldn't I just go buy this software as a builder and just do this myself? Well, now I see why I don't do this myself. There's a little bit more than just pushing the magic button. There's a little bit of behind the scenes.
It's like any piece of software. It depends on whose hands it's in. Obviously, we've done this for a long time, but I know, up in this area, it's a pretty steep hill. There's some steep slopes up there.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the ordinance. What's the criteria in the ordinance that we need to do, and how do we lay it out?
Okay.
But I get a lot of calls at how many units can I get on this site, because quite honestly, it almost doesn't matter what the acreage is. It's how many units are going to get out of a site, what the value of land is.
Yep, you're right.
And so this allows us to go into sites relatively quickly and do a quick site analysis and give a client a pretty good unit count as far as what they can expect to get out of it.
Sure. So you put an option on the land. You don't necessarily take it down as the builder and say, hey, I need, 2 weeks or whatever to do my due diligence, get in touch with you. You run these things through and all right.
And we have wetlands consultants that we work with that many times, if we suspect that there's some wetlands on a site, we'll want them to go out and identify, even if they don't do a full delineation, they can do a quick sketch of what they think are wetlands, and we can account for that early on in the process.
Okay.
We don't want to get too deep into this. And I've seen a lot of developers that may not be quite as sophisticated that actually get tracts under contract before they have any clue what they can do with it.
Oh yeah.
And then they've just wasted a lot of time and money
Right.
on getting something to the point and agreed on a price, early on that may not even be realistic.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Wow. So do you have, and again, maybe an unfair question, but do you have any rule of thumb for, and again, I know it's area dependent too, but how much a home builder would budget for some type of feasibility analysis? Is it X amount per acre, per finished lot? Is that a fair question to ask? And maybe that's in your nice PDF here.
well, every site is different. So I would say for the early due diligence, $2,000 to $5,000 is a pretty good number.
For the overall thing, it's not per acre, per finished lot.
Right.
Okay.
Right. For
Right.
the and really, obviously, something like the size of Blue Ridge Village is a little bit different, simply because of the size of the tract and the number of options.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It takes a while for that, but most smaller sites, 2,000 to 5,000 handles a lot of the initial due diligence to find out, is this even worthwhile pursuing?
Okay.
And then we'll narrow that down. We'll look at the grades a little bit more. We'll look at the FEMA flood studies with that. We'll look at the wetlands and some other items like that till we can really narrow it down into something a little bit finer.
Gotcha. I imagine you need to look at it. Now, do you have a way to import things like, endangered species or something like that? Because that can come into place too.
No, the endangered species, actually, that's the PNDI is fairly easy to do.
Okay.
I think they charge you like $50 for it. We'll usually do that early on just to make sure what if that might be an issue with the tract. The stream classification is getting more and more important. And what we're looking for in the stream classification is whether there's natural trout or if it's a trout stocked stream. It will really impact any type of permits with your wetlands or any disturbance of wetlands that you have.
Gotcha.
So the permitting process is really important to look at early on in the process, just so you know what you're getting yourself involved with.
Okay. So I know you do a lot of work, obviously, in the Harrisburg area. Has the software, because you use Google Earth, those things, has allowed you to be able to do work for folks everywhere, or is that just not too feasible because it's still a very local business?
We can go on here and import, we can geolocate a site basically anywhere in the country. So, and I have looked at some tracts in like Texas. They've had some questions on some development potential down there. For the most part, we can look at any tract, any place in the country. But many times, the development work is there's technical parts of it, and then there's political parts of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So in here, right?
Yeah. So I don't. There's lots of work within 2 hours of Harrisburg that I haven't seen the need to go out outside of that. We have done that. I mean, we've done a lot of work up towards Steelings Grove, and we just did a hotel up near Camelback up in the Poconos and some other areas like that.
Okay.
So we do that occasionally if it's a project that's big enough. We can do it. We just haven't seen the need to do it.
Yeah, fair enough. And I didn't know how it worked, and it seemed to me it would be somewhat local too. And especially if you're going to municipal meetings in the evenings, it's not real practical for you to fly to Tennessee necessarily on monthly basis. Necessarily, well, might be okay for you, but it might not be feasible dollar-wise for someone else.
Right.
So now, I'm sorry.
Up on the screen here now is really the Stray Wind Farms project.
Okay.
And that was a project we actually had designed and had all the approvals, and it was ready to go to construction right before the last crash.
I think I remember them advertising it.
Yeah, they even cut the road in, the construction entrance, and for some reason they had a gut feeling and pulled back, and thank God they did.
How about it? Now, have they since developed that again, or is it still pretty much like that now?
Well, this is all the homes. Ryan Homes is in there now, and they're building that about as fast as we can get a phase approved. They're going in and putting the homes up. So that project is going like wildfire right now.
Oh, well, good.
So you can see, actually, this is probably about 2 years ago, because I think most of the homes, on this road are all built now too.
I see. Well, fantastic. So on this particular software, can you do the full set of drawings from it after you approve, or do you have to still do that in something else, through a different one?
This program is good for the conceptual design, and I'm probably one of the few that has figured out how to use about 6 different pieces of software to get to that final video.
Okay.
Because you have to import and export. We're using SketchUp, we're using SiteOps, we're using Luminar RT, we're using Civil 3D, we're using a lot of different pieces to bring together with that. We still use the AutoCAD Civil 3D, all the finished design drawings that go to the municipalities.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how far this extended. Well, this is fantastic. I think folks who've not yet explored building, if you know this is out here as well, you can certainly, even if you want to do a feasibility study, would it be fair to say even a feasibility study, or if they want to do a conceptual, that would be easier for you to do anywhere versus, going in and doing the actual development? Or doesn't it make sense to have one person kind of do a feasibility conceptual and then hand it off to someone else?
Well, we always like to do the feasibility all the way through construction, but we can do, if you have something that's in another state or what, we can do a feasibility study for that and do a basic layout, and we don't have any problem handing that off to another local consultant to do the final design.
Sure.
We always like to be involved. If we're going to do the design, we like to be involved with the early feasibility studies, just so that we know from an engineering perspective it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, and then you don't get into that, well, he said we could do that, and then she said we could do that, and then you can't. No, I get that too. I was just kind of thinking for those who maybe just are exploring but don't necessarily want to go all in and don't really know the best way to do that, this could be potentially something they want to look at.
Because really, what I have up here now is, this is Linglestown Road, and when I look at over the past 30 years, these are just some of the projects that we've done down here. This is Laurel Point we did for Stan Custer, and then sections of Mountaindale up through here. Saybrook Meadows and Deer Path Woods, that was about 1,000-unit development with all this commercial development along Linglestown Road. Then we did Margaret's Grove and Waverly Woods through there for roads development in that. And now we're doing the Blue Ridge Village. So that whole region of Susquehanna and Lower Paxton Township were all of our projects over the past 30 years.
Hopefully you have a road or two named after you.
No, I'm the guy that they always blame, though, when they complain about the traffic on Linglestown Road. That's for sure.
There we go. We know where to send our not our hate mail, but anyway. Well, I think this has been fantastic. I appreciate you showing, and also for being my first hybrid video and audio together. And I think, again, for those who are just listening, you really, really do have to have a chance. Take a look at this. I'll make sure I have that link in the show notes on where to find this. I'll just upload it to probably my personal YouTube page or something on that page, with about 2 other videos I think I've had along the way. But I think just seeing this is just it's mind blowing. It's just amazing, and I'm so thankful that you were able to share this with me.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me, Brad. I appreciate it.
I'm sure you can tell that Bob has the expertise to discuss the land development process. With 30 years of experience, he certainly honed the process for his clients, and the software he shared really is pretty cool. So many thanks to Bob for his time. That does it for this week's episode of the Sticks and Bricks podcast. I'm Brad Hubbard. Thanks for listening. And until next time, keep building a business that's as strong as your homes.